Welcome to the Pipeline Award-winning show. As always, I'm your host, Jason Gibbs. You can find me on Twitter at Pipeline_. You can find me coming through your screen right now. Week 1 of college football coming up, maybe one of the biggest weeks ever. We'll talk about that, but of course, got to introduce my co-host, Mike DeVoe. You know him as Pipeline Mike. Mike, what do we think about this upcoming year?
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head, Jason. It's going to be one of the more exciting week ones that we've experienced here in college football. We have 3 top 10 matchups out of possibility of having 5 top 10 matchups. There are 3. We already had a fun week 0. It's currently the Thursday before week 1. So you might see one of the games on behind me right now, but yeah, very excited. Can't wait for this upcoming season. A lot of fun things to be talking about. Yeah, very excited.
Let's get right to it, though. Before we get to our week 1 preview, let's talk about 3 teams that we're really intrigued by. Maybe not necessarily the top teams, but our intrigue is at an all-time high, and this is scientifically based. Let's go a little bit with Indiana. What do you think about Indiana? And potentially foreshadowing question mark friend of the program, Kirk Cignetti. We'll get back to that later, but
yeah, I think Indiana is definitely an interesting team this upcoming year. They picked up Fernando Mendoza, I believe, in the transfer portal. He played at Cal last year. He was one of the most highly sought after quarterbacks in this past transfer portal class. Obviously, Indiana is coming off of a record year from their end, and Kurt Cignetti, as you mentioned, friend of the program, he is
foreshadowing question mark. Yeah,
he's definitely interesting in the storylines. He likes to talk his talk, especially when it comes to rival, not just rival teams, but rival conferences, in particular the SEC. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how Indiana does this upcoming year, but they definitely have a strong returning cast on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defensive line should be stronger than last year. And again, Fernando Mendoza is definitely an interesting player to watch.
Their first successful year since, I think, the Civil War. We'll have to check Pipeline stats and info on that. But you're right. Talked a lot of trash, proceeded to back it up by scheduling some of the worst teams in the history of college football. Taking a page out of the SEC book, that's what he says, but we'll see how it goes. Number 2, how about Colorado? First year for Deion Sanders without Shedeur Sanders, of course. Fifth round draft pick, Shedeur Sanders. Travis Craven, the Hunter gone, Heisman winner. What does Neon Deion have in the tank in Colorado?
Yeah, that's a great point. Obviously, there's been the unfortunate news about Deion and his health over the off season. So it'll be interesting to see in what capacity he'll be coaching the team this upcoming year. I think he said that nothing will be changing from his end, so we'll see what happens there. But people around the program seem to really like Caden Salter. I think he was most recently announced as the starting quarterback for the Buffs this upcoming season. So it'll definitely be interesting to see him. He's the transfer from Liberty. I know he was battling. I think they had a 5-star quarterback that he was battling during this offseason for the
Shedeur Sanders Jr. Yes,
Shedeur Sanders Jr. Exactly, another Sanders. But yeah, obviously they lose Travis Hunter, but they still have a very talented wide receiver room and should be one of the best rooms in the Big 12. They have a very strong defensive line with Anquan Barnes and Amari McNeil. Amari McNeil is a transfer from Tennessee, so they should be strong along the defensive front. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I can't wait to see what Colorado has in store for us this upcoming season, and we'll see if they can keep the train rolling.
Total wild card for me. For one, they're in the Big 12, like you said, which is wide open, and then 2, I doubted Deion the first year, and he kind of exceeded expectations. I doubted him last year. He did not succeed expectations. This year, Sanders is gone. All the Sanders are gone. He'll have to get a new ranking for his sons. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. But really be curious about this is where the rubber meets the road. Is he going to be any good? Is he going to be a head coach? Can he battle? I mean, can he put the health issues behind him? And definitely going to be intriguing. But number one, and this is to me a wide gulf margin of our most intriguing teams, and it's by far, I think you and I are in total agreement on this, UNC. We obviously have Bill Belichick. We have Jordan Hudson and all of the drama on the field. What's it going to be like essentially having the greatest coach of all time coaching a college team? Is he going to be out for blood? I'll get your thoughts, but I think the intrigue is at an all-time high in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, definitely. The stock is rising for the Gold Digger brand. I don't know if you saw, but Jordan Hudson trademarked the Gold Digger term for her jewelry brand.
I just bought some stock. I'll wear some jewelry next show.
Awesome. Yeah, folks around Chapel Hill are very excited about this hire. I think that the sentiment is that the program and the powers that be have finally put in the money and are showing a commitment to football, not just basketball. So I think that this has been their way of showing it in hiring somebody like Bill Belichick and putting in the money to get someone like him around the program. People in Chapel Hill are very excited. Gio Lopez was just named starting quarterback. No surprise there. They brought him in after the spring sessions, and he was a starting quarterback last year at South Alabama. He had a great end towards the end of the year. The Tar Heels have an interesting young player in Jordan Shipp. He's a second-year player. He's either a redshirt freshman. I don't know if he redshirted, but he might be a sophomore. Everyone is saying that he absolutely looks the part. They say that he looks like he's an NFL player out there on the field already. So it'll be very exciting to see what they do. It could be a disaster. A lot of folks don't know what's going to happen. There are 70 new players on the Tar Heels this upcoming year. So a lot of people, a lot of new faces, a lot of getting to know each other, I'm sure. Not just the facilities, but having to get to know your teammates. So we'll see how fast and how quickly they could gel. They kick off the year with TCU this upcoming Monday. So it should be electric in Chapel Hill, and probably one of the more exciting environments that they've seen in Chapel Hill for quite some time now.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the most excited they've been about football since maybe the early Mac Brown days. I would say in the 90s. That's kind of the sentiment that I get from around the program. But for me, this might be a hot take. I think the Belichick experiment works out swimmingly. I think maybe not this year. I don't think he's going to win a national title this year. And I know people might say, oh, he doesn't have Tom Brady, blah, blah, blah. But mixing all these new players, getting guys in his image, the mold that he wants. I've seen the practice tape, and I've seen him take Patriot teams that were outclassed talent-wise and take them all the way to the championship. So I think it's going to work out. Like I said, maybe not this year. There might be some growing pains, but I could see them exceeding their win total, which I can't remember is 7.5 or 8. But regardless, I like them. What are they, +3 versus TCU? Love them Monday night.
+3.5, I believe, at this point.
But I'm with you. Even better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if they beat TCU this upcoming weekend, 10 wins isn't out of the question. But if they lose, you never know. It could be a 7-win, 8-win season. I don't think Tar Heel fans can be disappointed with 7 or 8 wins. So.
Yeah, luckily, though, Belichick has quite the way of handling the media. So I don't think he's going to succumb to pressure on the campus as far as reporters and et cetera, as media goes. But anyway, so how about our next segment, Mike? We've talked about our most intriguing teams. Now we're going to go. I'm just going to give you a team, and you're going to tell me what you think they are for the upcoming season. And this segment's called Every Team is Underrated. All right, let's start with the champs, Ohio State, reigning champs. Coming in, what do you think about this upcoming year?
Underrated. Wow. Right off the bat, I have to say Ohio State is definitely underrated. Julian Sayin was just named their starting quarterback. I think he left Alabama because he was too good. They are ranked 3rd on the AP poll for this week 1. I think that that they need to be higher than number 3. So absolutely underrated. Caleb Downs is the best college football player that has ever stepped on a football field. It'll be really exciting to see them, and I can't wait to see them. I don't even know why we're playing the season because they should already have the national title.
It's already over. We already got the parade planned out. We already have the ring size. Julian Super Saiyan, like you said. Cerebus Smith, Jeremiah Cerebur, and cut.
Jeremiah Smith, right?
Jeremiah Smith, but I was going to give him a nickname.
Oh.
Cerberus Smith, because he doesn't have that dog in him. He has that dog in him. But Caleb Downs, like you said, maybe the greatest player ever to play in the history of the earth. I don't see any other way to see it. But let's go to our second team. We talked about the reigning champ. What about the other reigning champ, Auburn? Mm-hmm. As you know, they've won 10 national titles in a row, according to this offseason. Mm-hmm. And it might be weird that a coach like Hugh Freeze, who is the reigning national champ 10 times in a row, is on the hot seat / hot hospital bed. What do you see down in Auburn?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I'm not sure that I've ever seen a team win 10 national titles in one offseason. So it's quite impressive. I have to say, absolutely underrated. I'm not exactly sure where they're rated in the AP poll. They might not be even in the top 25, but I don't even think number 1 would be high enough because no team has ever won that many national titles in an offseason. Their quarterback, Jackson Arnold, come on, a quarterback with 2 first names. That's just a recipe for a national title. So I have to say they're underrated. They're definitely a top 5 team in the state of Alabama. And I would say that puts them probably at number 1 in the country.
Nice. Well, let's go about the actual number 1 team, Texas. Now, do you think that, let me check my notes here. Arch Manning, do you think he's going to be good? Texas, what's your rating?
Underrated. Arch Manning is a top 3 Manning to ever play the sport of football.
Tied for top 3, but yes, they're top 4.
Tied for top 3. Yeah,
top 4.
Top 4. He's definitely top
4.
Top
5. We'll go top 5 just in case.
He's a top 2 Arch Manning.
Okay.
To ever play the sport of football. So I think that's quite high praise. Number 1, I think that they need to, for the AP poll, they need to introduce a 0. So then that way they could be ranked above number 1.
Underrated. Unbelievable. What about Alabama?
Alabama. Underrated. Absolutely. Absolutely underrated. Alabama.
You think they're a top 5 team in the state of Alabama as well?
I think so. They're right on the cusp, 5 or 6. So I do have to say that they are a top team in the state of Alabama. Kalen DeBoer might actually be the greatest Alabama head coach of all time. That's what people are saying. That's what I've heard on the streets here of Los Angeles. And yeah, I really think that the sky's the limit for this Alabama team.
Well, let's go this. How about this? Let's do some rapid fire, and you just tell me what a team is underrated. I'm going to say a team, and you just tell me if they're overrated, properly rated, or underrated. And of course, this segment, every team is underrated. All right? Mm-hmm. Kentucky.
Underrated. Absolutely.
South Carolina.
I would underrated.
Miami.
Underrated.
Oh, wow. Hurricane fans excited to hear that. Notre Dame.
Underrated.
Okay, coming off a national title appearance. Underrated. Irish are back officially. Texas A&M.
Underrated.
Underrated. Okay. Aggie fans excited. Texas Tech.
Underrated.
Underrated. Louisville.
Underrated.
Boston College.
Underrated.
Toledo.
Underrated.
Hawaii.
Underrated.
And Stanford.
Properly rated.
All right, that ends our segment of every team is underrated. Let's go to, we talked about week 1. Let's put some historical perspective on it. You mentioned 3 top 5 matchups. Did you know This is our factoid of the day. I'm sorry, factoid of the day.
From Pipeline Stats. Pipeline Stats.
Yes, Pipeline Stats and Infos. Give me the thumbs up to tell our factoid of the day. This is only the 4th time. I'm not even talking to week 1. 4th time in college football history that there have been 3 top 5 matchups. This ties the most in 1 week. So, Mike, we're not just looking at a historic week 1. We're looking literally at a historic any week in any part of any college football season ever. This is only the 4th time it's happened.
Yeah, and the other 3 times there were only 10 teams in the country. So of course they,
that was 1851. I think was the first time. It was only 8 teams. Yes, but
crazy.
So we obviously have these 3 Titanic matchups. We'll talk about them in just a second, but we have other matchups and that are intriguing and are going to kind of catch our eye. But let's talk about, we'll start at the top. And I will say this, RIP the BCS. You and I think, are on the same page. We don't really like playoff expansion. It's hard to fight it because TV execs have so much skin in the game that they are willing to, in our opinion, lessen college football. But imagine for a second, though, this is the BCS era. And we're going to start the year off. The first game, noon, week 1, and we're going to have number 1 versus number 3. This could literally have torpedoed their entire season, possibly, depending on how the game goes. Now it's just going to be kind of a footnote. And unless a team, I don't foresee either team getting totally blown out, it's really going to just be almost a resume builder, a quality loss. So, number 1 Texas at number 3 Ohio State. Just give me a couple quick thoughts. I know both teams are underrated in your opinion, but Texas also. How about this? Texas is the first number 1 team ever to open up week 1 being an underdog.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's an interesting stat there. I'm very happy that this one's being played in Columbus on campus. I know some folks are very against the neutral site games, and I think that we are as well here at Pipeline. And so I just want to say, whoever made that decision, great decision. Love to have these games on campus. It brings tons of excitement to the game. It's how they should be played. So I want to start out with that. I do think that this matchup in particular, I think Ohio State's favored by a point and a half. So again, to your point, they are number 1 team, but they're starting off as underdogs here. I think that Arch Manning, it'll be his first game, obviously, as the starting quarterback coming into this year. I know he started a few games with Quinn Ewers when he went down a few times last year. But I think that as long as they keep the Rock safe and that they make sure that they run the ball an ample amount of times and make sure that Caleb Downs, the greatest player of all time, doesn't get in the backfield and sack him and wreak some havoc. They should be fine. And I think that people have been talking that the Texas offensive line should be very good this upcoming year. And I know Ohio State has some great defensive linemen, so that matchup will be very interesting to watch. Yeah.
Obviously, the Longhorns lost a couple guys to the draft. So the offensive line, I think, would be the key to the game. I do think it's going to be kind of a low-scoring game. I would lean toward the under. I know sharp money is coming in on Texas. So it's going to be just really like a punch in the face to start the year off. 12 o'clock, Fox, game at noon. It's going to be a lot of fun. The second top 10 matchup of the week, we have another one on campus too. Death Valley versus Death Valley. Tigers versus Tigers. Clemson and LSU. Clemson, Heisman hopeful Cade, find me in the club, Nick, going against Garrett Nussmeier, another Heisman hopeful. Dabo, Brian Kelly hasn't won, I think, 0-5 in openers recently. So Dabo at home, Dabo would love nothing more than to win a national title this year, doing it his way, quote unquote. What do you see for this game?
Yeah, I think what you just said is pretty perfect, right? Dabo, it's a matchup of two different lines of thinking in terms of building your program, right? LSU has added a bunch of transfers along the defensive side of the ball, while Clemson has sort of maintained that they're going to get players out of high school and build from the ground up that way. So it'll be interesting. I do think that Garrett Nussmeier, as long as he's not asked to do too much in this game, because if LSU's put in third and long situations and he's being asked to win them the game, I think it could be a long night for the Tigers. But it'll be fun to watch Cade Klubnik as well as he starts. I believe it's his senior campaign this upcoming season, so I that'll be interesting. I've never been high on Cade Klubnik, as you know. I think that he can be a bit overrated. I know we just had the session of.
I didn't mention Cade Klubnik though.
That was you didn't, so that was the one person. If you would have mentioned
that,
I would have spoke my mind there. But yeah, Clemson they have NFL talent all over the defensive line as well. So I think it'll really be a matchup of lines here. I mean, as it always is when it gets to big boy football, right? If they can protect their quarterbacks, they really have a good shot at winning the game.
I think it's going to be a defensive struggle, but I actually like Clemson here, and I like them to cover their -4. I think LSU is going to have a good year. I can't see it really going south for them. If it does, maybe the heat gets turned up on Brian Kelly if they have like a really off year, but I don't expect that. But I do expect big things from Clemson. I think they make the playoffs. They win the ACC. We'll see if they stumble along the way. But let's get to our third matchup, an old school matchup. We got Notre Dame coming, as we said, off of the national championship appearance to Miami. We got the Catholics versus the Convicts. What do you think here?
Yeah, this is another great matchup here. Miami brought in Carson Beck this upcoming season, or this past off season they brought him in. Carson Beck. It'll be interesting to see. I also think that it's sort of another situation where Miami can't be reliant on him to win them games, right? So if they can't run the ball and they can't move the ball in other ways and they can't protect Carson Beck, then I think it could be a tough time for Miami on this upcoming weekend. I do think that the word around campus in Coral Gables is that they have NFL talent all over the field. So there's no shortage of that there. Notre Dame, obviously on both sides of the ball, they're known for having big offensive linemen that can really control you. So again, I think that this particular matchup starts at the lines, and whoever can dominate on the offensive and defensive line will win this game.
Yeah. Obviously, Notre Dame wants to run the ball. They're going to be introducing a new QB, and Miami's introducing a new QB too. I could see the game maybe going a little bit under. I do think this about Carson Beck. I know he takes a lot of heat on social media for sliding into DMs and embarrassing himself and dating IG models, etc. But I think back to that game last year, Alabama at Georgia, or was it in Alabama? I can't remember. Anyway, Alabama and Georgia. Alabama gets up early. They look like they're going to blow the doors off. And then just slowly, methodically, Beck came back. Actually, the Bulldogs took the lead late until that amazing Ryan Williams play. And I could just see him kind of sliding into that Cam Ward role and the Hurricanes having a big year. My only hesitancy is that it seems that every time we think Miami's going to do something like that, they do the opposite. They're one of those bizarro teams. So can Mario Cristobal get his team on track, win the trenches, grind them out? And this would be a huge feather in their cap, the Hurricanes, that is, if they could win this early season matchup.
Yeah, completely agree.
So let's talk a few more matchups, and then we're going to get to our championship picks. All right. How about Virginia Tech at South Carolina? Kind of an odd matchup. We're going to go really old school. South Carolina actually used to be in the ACC, and really old school Virginia Tech didn't. Then we have of course, Frank Beamer connection. Frank Beamer coached Virginia Tech for years and years and years. Now his son, Shane Beamer, coaches South Carolina. Kind of an interesting quirk there. People sky high on Lenora Sellers. I actually need to come up with a nickname for them. Buyers and sellers. I'm not sure. That might be too obvious. So we'll put a pin in that one for later. But 7.5-point favorites, South Carolina. I'm just not totally sure, Mike. And I know there's times where I feel like Shane Beamer, when they've fallen flat, he's kind of made excuses. I think there was a game a couple years ago, last year, when they lost to, I think it was UNC. And I remember he was blaming the chain gang, said they were eating a hot dog or something weird. And I was thinking, you can't be a real coach if these are the excuses you're going to make. But an interesting matchup, South Carolina. We're going to hear the Cocks cocking a doodle doing all night, or does Virginia Tech, who desperately they could really hang their hat on this victory if they could come up with a W over South Carolina?
Yeah, I really see South Carolina as being an 8-4 team this upcoming year, and I think that's being in the SEC. I think Kyron Drones for Virginia Tech, I believe he's still the starting quarterback this upcoming year. So I think that Virginia Tech, I see them as like a 7-5, 8-4 team in the ACC. South Carolina, they have quite possibly the best player in the country in the SEC, but also in the country when it comes to Lenore Sellers. A lot of people are very excited about him.
I can tell your dogs are excited about him.
Yeah, they're very excited about it as well. But they also have one of the best players in the country on the defensive side of the ball as well. So it'll be an exciting matchup, but I think South Carolina will be too much for them in this game this Saturday.
Yeah, so I have their win total 7.5. I actually have them under that win total, but I will say this: lose this game and things could go sideways. So I know Cox fans want to hear Sandstorm and getting the ball rolling. A really pivotal matchup early on in the season. Let's talk one more before we get to our championship predictions. Syracuse, kind of a weird. I guess we have an ACC SEC challenge. I don't know. Syracuse at Tennessee. And of course, Syracuse has the best player in the country, my favorite guy, Jack Stonehouse, the punter. Hopefully just booming punts all night, which of course would be bad for the Orange. But 14-point game, that's the spread. What do you think?
I have Tennessee winning this game, but I do think Syracuse will cover. Syracuse last year, obviously, with Kyle McCord, he had a fantastic year and what they were able to do with him. But this past offseason, they brought in they brought in Angeli, I believe, from Notre Dame, and I think that if they can follow sort of the same blueprint that they put forth with Kyle McCord this past coming year, they'll be a lot better than people expect. I do think Joey Aguilar, the starting quarterback for Tennessee, that they brought in for Iliamilava, I think that
Nico Suave. We'll just go Nico
Suave. He's quite turnover prone. So I could see them losing some or turning the ball over a bit this upcoming Saturday, and they'll keep it close. But I think Tennessee just has too much talent and will be too much for them.
Interesting offseason for the Orange. I'm sorry, not the Orange. The Volunteers. You're right. They had their quarterback, Nico Suave, Yamaleava, and ran into some NIL shenanigans. I'm not sure what him or his advisors or his parents were saying or thinking. He leaves, and basically UCLA and Tennessee switch quarterbacks. Joey Aguilar comes in. How is he going to fit in the offense? So he hasn't had time. I'm sure Vols fans would have preferred someone more time in the system. They start out with a Syracuse team that also, as you said, who was that? I think it was our guys over at CFB 365 Daily who had his nickname Peanut Butter and Jelly. Great nickname. But I'm like you. I'm not sure about the covering, but it's going to be both teams getting their feet wet with new quarterbacks. So let's go, Mike, to our championship prediction. And we talked about this being the biggest week one ever, without a doubt. Possibly one of the biggest weeks of college football ever. You can make a case. On top of all that, as a backdrop, we have possibly one of the most wide open fields. I can't think of one right now off the top of my head where at the beginning of the year, I don't know. If you put a gun to my head, please don't. But if you do, I would have no idea like who to really say like, yes, I can get behind this team. Now, you and I, we've known each other a long time, and we used to talk about when Nick Saban retired, it was going to change the entire landscape of college football, which it has. Now, yes, there's been portal stuff, there's been NIL stuff that's moved stuff around and shifted the balance of power. But this is the example I always use. Let's get in a time machine and you and I go back maybe 10 years and we would say, so it's what is it, 2014, 2015, somewhere in that time frame. And if you and I said, who would you bet would win the college football national championship 4 or 5 years from now? So that's obviously no player on the team would have been there at that time. And we always would have made the same bet, Alabama. And you can't say that anymore. Maybe Alabama wins it all. They have a great squad, but it's just way too wide open. We've had Michigan, we've had Ohio State, a little bit of a shift of power away from the SEC. Of course, the SEC is still good. We have a Clemson resurgence. So many teams. So I'm not going to put a gun to your head, a water gun. That's all I'll do. Who wins the national title for you?
Yeah, I think you're right. This year, there's probably more teams that could win it than any other season that I can remember. I can name 5 to 10, maybe 10 that likely have legitimate shots at winning the national title this upcoming year. I really like Penn State. I think Oregon could have a great year as well. When it comes to the SEC, I mean, there's several teams in the SEC that you could be holding up that trophy at the end of the year as well. You can't leave out Ohio State, can't leave out Texas, Georgia. Speaking of the SEC, but I think at the end of the year, the two teams that we'll find in that national title game, if you had to put that water gun to my head, I really like the Texas Longhorns and I love the Nittany Lions of Penn State. I think James Franklin has gotten a lot of scrutiny over the years that he's been a good coach, but he's never been able to take this team to the next level. So I think this might be the year that they finally do it. Drew Aller is back. I think that he'll be fun to watch this upcoming year. I think that they need better wide receiver play than they had last year. I think in the playoffs, there was a point where maybe in like the third or fourth game into the playoffs, they didn't have any receptions from their wide receivers. So they'll definitely have to find some more production there. But I think that people around College Station and I think that they've really they feel like they do have those guys now, and they'll be playmakers this upcoming year. So I do think that Penn State, if I had to choose anybody, I have Penn State beating Texas in that national title game in January.
Obviously, they have the running game with Nick Singleton and company.
Of course.
If you're right, if Penn State wins it all, I'll tell you why. And it's not going to be the reason you think I'm going to say. So they brought in defensive coordinator Jim Knowles from reigning national champs, co-reigning national champs, Ohio State. But I'm not going to say that's the reason they win because of their defense. I'm going to tell you this. If they win, it's because he actually pulled Drew Aller to the side and told him how, when they were with Ohio State, because Penn State always folded against Ohio State in those games where they kind of could have gotten over the hump. And Jim Knowles told Drew Aller how they defended him. It was an eye-opening moment for Aller, and he kind of went to work this offseason. If they win it all, that will be the key. Now, why I don't think they will is for your aforementioned reason. I just can't trust. I just can't trust James Franklin, Mike. Let me give you a little example, and I don't know if the Pipeline video team I'll check with them later, see if they can get this clip up. So Penn State loses to Notre Dame in the semifinals last year. Remember, the game was tied, and Notre Dame kicked the game-winning field goal, right? If you go back and look at that play, you will see Penn State lined up in a prevent defense to block the field goal, as if Notre Dame was going to fake the field goal. Would have been the single craziest play in sports history, not just college football history, was if they faked a makeable field goal to score a touchdown. I'm not even sure. That's the type of detail that I feel like is always lacking, or frequently lacking, with James Franklin. But to your point, you never get over the hump until you do. So maybe this is your year. We'll see. I have debated this so much. I thought about Alabama. I've thought about Texas. Texas is kind of the obvious pick. I've thought about Clemson. I mentioned Dabo and Cade. You find me into Klubnik. I'm going to kind of go a little bit, dare I say, off the radar, because this team has kind of flown silently in the offseason. I'm going to go the Georgia Bulldogs with the most underrated player in the country, Gunnar Stockton. Listen, if people say I don't have any confidence in him, totally understand that. But Gunnar Stockton is like the ultimate gym rat. He's the ultimate film rat. And he is going to open people's eyes. Now, they have to go in there and play with that Kirby Smart attitude, that kill them, run through a wall, claw, scratch, do whatever you can to win it type attitude. And they can't take any teams for granted, especially in the SEC. But I am going kind of off the radar, if you will. I mean, it's not like they have horrible odds. But I'm going Georgia Bulldogs to win it all over over Clemson. I think we lost your
underrated
mic.
Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia Bulldogs, underrated. Should have mentioned them. But I think that's going to do it for this time. Hopefully, Pipeline Studios will get our full, at some point, our studio fully constructed, and we'll be in place. We'll have all the lighting and good to go. But stick with us, and we'll see you guys next time on the Pipeline Award-winning show.